Let's quickly create sunlight and sun rays over this forest image. So first let's create a new layer. Let's fill this layer with pure black color, and now we will just reduce its opacity. We can check this particular point. So if you want to know this particular points of x and y values, so we simply need to go to window and we need to select info, and here is the info panel, and inside the info panel here on the top right corner we have a hamburger menu. From this menu we will change the ruler units to pixels, and now we will just take our mouse over this particular position, because we are going to place our sunlight in this spot, in this place. So the position here is x position is 1358 and y position is 85. So we will be placing the sunlight at this location. So we just have to remember these values. Right. So what we'll be doing is we'll simply go to filter, and in filter we have render, and in render we have the option lens flare. So here we'll be placing, and if we want to exactly place our sunlight in the location that we have just now chosen, so what we have to do is we simply have to hold Alt in PC or Option in Mac and click on this icon, so that this new dialog box pops up, and in this dialog box let's put a value 1358 in X and 85 in Y, so that our sunlight is now positioned in this particular location. So this is the proper place for our sunlight. And now what we'll be doing is, here we have some values. We want the lens type to be 105 mm prime, right? So here we can see, and we can slightly increase the brightness if we want. So just slightly we can increase. Let's not increase it to a very big value. So we can see here, but what we need to do is we have to increase the opacity here, and we will now use a blending mode which is going to remove all the dark colors, and it's going to only show the sunlight. So we will select the screen blending mode. Now we can see the screen blending mode has only kept the sunlight, and it has removed all the dark colors in the image. Right. Now we are ready to create sun rays. To create sun rays, first let's darken the forest image. To darken the forest image, let's take a duplicate of this forest image layer, and let's change the blending mode to multiply. Right. Now the next step is we'll just take a new layer. We will rename the layer rays, and what we'll be doing is we will be selecting a brush. We will select a square brush. So we need to find a square brush. So we just have to scroll down, and here we can find a square brush. Here we can find hard square 24 pixels. So this is the brush. We have to change the shape of this brush. The shape of this brush has to be rectangular, and it should not look like a square. So what we are going to do is, first let's change the foreground color. Right now the foreground color is red. We have to change it to white. We can simply hit D, and we can also hit X to change the foreground color to pure white. Now let's squish this brush. So here we have to right click on the brush and open the brushes panel, and here we have the roundness option. We will just squish it. So if we squish it like this, now we can see rectangular brush stroke. So what we have to do now is we just have to rotate this particular brush stroke. So in order to rotate it, we just have to hold shift and just click on the right arrow key, or left arrow key. We can also use the right arrow key to rotate it in clockwise direction or anti-clockwise. So we just have to create a diagonal rectangle in this manner, right? And we can squish it even more, so something like this. This looks better. And now let's start creating the rectangles. So we need to create them in this way. So here we have created the rectangles that are starting from the sunlight and extending till the ground. Something like this. Right. And let's also position them properly. So we have to just keep them in a diagonal position like this. And we can also use the warp tool to make them in a triangular, make them in a conical shape. So the rays should look conical. So something like this. So this is how we have to change the shape of the rays, right? Now the next step is we have to now apply a filter. So what is the filter? So we simply have to keep the rays layer active and we will go to filter, and in filter we have the option blur, and in blur we have the option radial blur. So let's select the radial blur, and in radial blur we have to increase the amount to maximum. We have to select the option blur method as zoom, and we have to select the quality as best, and the most important setting here is the blur center. We have to change the blur center to top right corner, so something like this. And now we'll simply click OK. So we can see here instantly we can see some rays, and we can change the position or scale of these rays. We can position them properly, and then if you want more rays, we'll just take a duplicate of this particular rays layer, and we will also just move it slightly so we can see here. So we can see more rays now, and we can also reduce the opacity here if you want the rays to be a little bit mild. So something like this, and we can just reduce the opacity for both the rays layers. So something like this. So we can see we got the sun rays, and we can take one more duplicate of the forest image layer so that the image looks more dark. So something like this. So now the rays are clearly visible, and now what we'll be doing with the rays is we will group the rays layer and we will apply a mask to this, and then we'll select a brush. We'll select a soft rounded brush, and we will erase the part at the bottom, something like this. And also we can slightly reduce the opacity for this group so that the rays are not going to look too intense. And the next interesting thing that we'll be doing is, see, when the rays are touching the ground should also illuminate. So in order to illuminate the ground, what we'll be doing is we'll just take a layer above all the layers. We can rename this Illuminating, illuminating ground. You can just check the spelling. And now what we'll be doing is we'll change the blending mode to color dodge, and what we'll be doing is we'll select a brush, a soft rounded brush, and what we'll be doing is first we will just click on the ground here. So we can see a lot of bright lighting is showing up, but we don't want this much bright lighting, so we will control the lighting here. So what we'll be doing is we'll first reduce the flow amount. Let's keep the flow amount to a very small value. Let's keep the flow amount to 12%, and then let's double click on the color dodge layer to open the layer style dialog box. In the layer styles, here we have an option, transparency shapes layer. We'll turn off this option. So what will happen with this option is we can see a bright light on the ground, as if the lighting is due to the rays falling or touching the ground. So we can just click once, so we can see how we are illuminating the ground. So something like this. So this is how we can create sunlight and sun rays in Photoshop.